and now invite somebody that you've all been waiting for, Arun Sharma, a dear friend, and someone whom I've learned a lot. Very unassuming. You see the halo around the name, but you find him very unassuming, which is the sign of a great man. Thank you, Arun. You need absolutely no introduction. I will not waste any time on the introduction. It will be foolish on my part to try and do any introduction. Thank you very much. We know the kind of questions that are coming, and I know that you've done a few sessions already. But really, we would like to request you to talk on what the new CAT 2020 pattern will really test, and how should the students now have a 60-day plan strategy. So Arun, over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So I'm sharing my screen now. So against my general instinct, I did prepare a PPT on this issue, because I'm normally I don't like to be constrained when I speak. After so much experience, I really don't like to be constrained by PPT when I speak. But chalo, theek hai. I got a structured talk to make about the key ideas that I wanted to talk about, and of course, the explanatory part of the PPTs will be more important than just the PPT here. So thank you, Amit, for announcing me. And as Amit said, we are old-time friends. We have known each other now for around 15, 17 years. Around the time I wrote my first book, The QA for CAT, which all of you know, which is what made me famous in the CAT industry, kind of this thing. So MBAUniverse.com and we have been kind of participating together, and also as a friendship has grown for this time. So it was absolutely a no-brainer for me to come and talk in this case when you gave me the privilege. And of course, good to see these young people like Radhika and Tanuj, who are the next generation of IIM grads who are now helping people with their own experiences. Well, many times when I tell people something that you should try to do this and that, I realize that I realize what happens is they think about me from an authority perspective. But when someone like them tells them that this is what you can do, it becomes much better and much more inspiring to people. So that's about it. So of course, my introduction about my books, etc. And I'm also the founder of Mindworkzz, which is my personal institution where we try to help people for CAT. I'm also the co-founder of two YouTube channels. One is the Arun Sharma Mindworkzz channel, and the other is the Arun Sharma Academy, in which I'm focusing on mathematics and career development and everything I need to give to the world. So the COVID has actually been a positive for me in the sense that it has started to give me so much time. I try to take the positive out of it. And that's what I tell everybody to do, that whatever happens, I mean, as they say, if life gives you lemon, make lemonade. If life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So the point I'm trying to make here is that the CAT has changed, and there's a lot of anxiety about the change of the CAT and the change of the pattern and this thing. But if I was in your place, my first advice to everybody will be that there's no need to panic. There's absolutely no need to panic. I mean, if it had been changed for you, you were getting 40 minutes per section and your competitor was getting 60 minutes per section, then I would be bothered. But if it's going to be 40 minutes per section for everybody, how does it matter? It really does not matter. It does change some skill sets, etc. But as I tell all my students all the time, that when you're preparing for an exam like the CAT, you have to make sure that you are ready for any eventuality in the exam. And in fact, for the current generation of CAT takers, it might be very new to see that the CAT is changing pattern, etc. But I don't know, Amit, if you remember late 90s, one would not even know how many sections there are going to be in the exam. You would go into the paper and you open the physical test paper, and you break that seal, and then you read what is there in the paper, and you realize that last year there were 4 sections, this year there are 2 sections. That happened in 1996. and it in 1998, 96, 97 was a 2-section exam. So you had to react then and there about what to do. And CAT 98 from 97, when it was a 2-section exam, everybody went to CAT 98 prepared for a 2-section exam. And when they entered the CAT, they suddenly realized that the number of sections has changed to 3. So forget talking about the number of, or forget telling you the number of questions. They would not even tell you the number of sections earlier. Questions to variance was a given. कभी 180 question होता था, कभी 150 होता था. Sometimes it would come down to 135. Sometimes go back to 160. So it was a given. So you had to react to that. और maybe आजकल बहुत तमीज वाले हो गए हैं लोग कि सबसे पहले से बता देते हैं 2 महीना 6 महीना पहले 3 महीना पहले कि इतना टाइम होगा और ये होगा. So don't really get too bothered about it. And as MBAUniverse.com shared with me the other day, that their interview with their interview with one of the IIM Indore CAT authorities told them that they are not really going to inform us about the number of questions that are going to come. So we are in a situation where we really don't know how many number of questions are going to come. So key questions that so let's face the uncertainty. Nobody told you in life that life will be not uncertain. So you don't need to be so bothered about the certainties in the CAT. You have to face the uncertainty and navigate the uncertainty best. So when you open the mock test paper, you will find how many questions there are. When you open your exam window and you start your exam, just before you start your exam, you'll know how many questions there are. There was a comment on my YouTube channel the other day about this, that first slot people will be the worst hit, and the second, third slot people will have an easier time than that. Now, I think that's basically coming from a very mediocre mindset. If you think about a simple situation, suppose मेरे को पता चल जाता है, I come to know that the number of questions is 72 or 68, whatever, and this is 2024. So if I get to know this information 5 minutes before the exam, or I get to know this information 3 hours before the exam, मैं क्या कर लूँगा 3 घंटे में about this? What will I do with it? So why is it something that should bother me so much, whether I'll get first slot or second slot or third slot? क्या मैं 3 घंटे में क्या कर लूँगा जो मैं 5 मिनट में नहीं सोच सकता हूँ about कि how do I tackle a 68 question exam or how do I tackle a 75 question exam, right? So in your preparation, the only thing you need to do is you need to make your preparation slightly wider. That's it. Now, what do I think they will test? What do I think they will test? So there are a few things that come to mind in the context of, this is another question that a lot of people asking me. Do you think the questions will change? They can, just like they could have changed in 2019. In 2019, instead of asking summary questions, they could have asked last sentence questions. And people who are giving 2019, I'm sure Tanuj, Radhika and other people must have been prepared for other verbal questions. Right? And so in 2020, you should be. You should not presuppose that 17, 18, 19 में CAT में ये आया था तो इस साल भी ये आएगा. That's been one of the biggest problems why people talk about CAT as a surprise, and CAT is giving you surprises every year, is because people look at a 3-year perspective. They start settling into a comfort zone. कि last 3 साल में CAT में ये पूछा है तो अभी इस साल भी ये आएगा. So that kind of thinking in CAT is always very dangerous. Very dangerous. You should not have that thinking. So when you're preparing for the exam, on every section, every area, you look at a 15-20 year perspective. What has the CAT been? What has the CAT been? In the 15-20 year perspective, you'll get a wide line angle view of it. And based on that wide angle, you should be ready. Okay, this is what is most probabilistic, because this is what has happened last 3 years. But I'm also prepared for the other types of questions. So that's my first point about this. So anybody not doing that always comes to grief in the CAT. So anybody going into CAT 18 thinking कि आजकल logarithms नहीं पूछते हैं, know what the story happened. The story was 4 questions on logarithms, and what 4 questions on a topic does, it does not seem to be too many from 30 in a context of 34 questions. But what it does is if you're targeting around 20 to 23 questions to solve, और 4 क्वेश्चन ऐसे चैप्टर से आगे जो तुम पढ़ के नहीं गए हो, तो broadly instead of solving 22 out of 34, you are solving 22 out of 30. That means on each of the 30 questions, your stakes go up much higher. You can't afford to not solve because every fourth question out of every 4 questions, 22 out of 30 is 3 out of 4 questions you have to solve. And if you're trying to attempt 22 out of 34, you are solving 2 out of 3. On a 12 question framework, it makes a big difference. On 12 questions, you are allowed to not do 4 questions in a 2 out of 3 case, and in a 3 out of case in 3 out of 4 case. In 12 questions, you are not allowed to do only 3 questions. And then if they squeeze you on the other side, that topic which you have studied, that comes out tough. If they squeeze you on the other side, then you're gone in that exam. So my perspective is always don't try to guess what the CAT is going to do. That is always dangerous, right? So I can cite instances like this. CAT 2006 mein, a question type appeared. People still prepare for that question type. And that question type has appeared only 2 times in the CAT, in verbal. It was the fact inference judgment question type. And it shocked the complete country. 2 lakh people, some 2.5 lakh people were giving CAT that year. And it shocked everybody giving the exam because they never thought about that question. When did the last time fact inference judgment come? Did it ever come before? The answer is yes. When was the last time it came? CAT 1992. So somebody who is preparing for verbal, looking at 2003, 4, 5, last 3 years के पेपर में क्या हुआ है, तो उस तरह से मेरा verbal तैयारी होना चाहिए. Would obviously be shocked because he's never seen a question type like this. And somebody who's preparing a year perspective, what has happened in the last 15, 20 years in the exam, would have a huge advantage in that context. So if I try to think about what do I think they'll test. So broadly, if you look at language, it's a comprehension test now. There's no vocabulary. There's no, gone are the days when you know 2 words and you can get 3 marks or 1 mark, whatever the marking scheme is in the exam. Those days are gone. So in verbal, they are testing comprehension. And while CAT retains the propensity and the freedom to surprise you in the exam, while it retains that with itself, you also need to understand that the CAT, if you look at it over the last 5-7 years, the way it's going, it's settling into a slightly more predictable test than it used to be. So while there will be chapter variations, there will be question type variations. There can be. You should be ready for that. But the skill tested will not be different. So the skill I'll test. Suppose I'm giving an odd man out question or a parajumble question on a theta basis. I'm testing your comprehension skill. So if I change that question type and don't give that question type, instead of that I introduce a last sentence question type or a missing sentence question type in between, I'm testing the same skill. So they are not moving. I don't think they have a very clear definition about what CAT will ask you, what kind of questions they'll ask you. And that's the reason why a book that I wrote in 2003, my quants book, questions from that even now appear in the CAT. A question I framed in 2003 in my book has appeared in 2018 and 19 CAT paper. Because the skill being tested, whether you talk about quants or DI or LR or verbal, it will be similar. So if you are sitting in one room and told to make a question where you are intelligent and you're told to make a question based on, I want to test somebody's skill on this, and you make somebody else sit in the other room, they'll make similar questions. So that's something you should understand, that it's stabilizing to a kind of skill testing. So whatever comes in within that skill test logic, you should do. You should do. Otherwise, you'll always have those experiences. Crypt arithmetic had never appeared in the CAT. 2019 had a DI set on it. So why didn't you prepare for it? It was something that you should do if you are interested in doing well in an exam like this. It's a very logical, structured question type. It tests your quantitative skills just like, and reasoning and deduction skills, just like any other question type does, right? But at the same time, when a question type like direction test, etc., in a normal context, the way banking exams give you, they are not the fodder that CAT uses, because the skills that they're testing, because CAT, I think if you talk to the people who are making the CAT and you talk to them for the last 25 years, the set of people who have defined what the CAT should be, I'm quite sure they are looking for the top managers, they're looking for the top administrators, people who will be leaders in industry 20 years from now. My batch, most of the people are now leaders in their respective industries, and they still have 10 years to go. So next 10 years, you already started hearing them in the headlines. In the next 5-10 years, you'll start seeing that they are the biggest corporate bosses going around, and they are the people that the CAT is trying to weed out. So it's not going to ask you questions that will be asked out of a clerical exam, or a exam at a slightly lower level of executives. So that's something you need to understand. So if I was in a place, so let's try to make sense of what this basically means. So I'll come to this slide: questions, easier, tougher, what my thought process is. But in terms of the skills tested, I think it's going to remain the same. In terms of question types, be ready for a few variations, which basically means, if to simplify what I want to say, to make it more amenable to you to understand, to all of you to understand, is that if I'm talking about English, of course, reading comprehension to question type rehne wala. But in the verbal question types, I might prepare for 2-3 more question types apart from my core reading comprehension, apart from my core 3 question types, which have been coming in the exam over the last 3 years. So I might prepare for a last sentence well. I might prepare for a fact inference judgment well. I might prepare for a paragraph with a missing sentence in between. So I might do a little bit of work on that, so that if a question on that comes, I'm not shocked and I'm not surprised. And if you look at a 20-year perspective, you will see all the question types that can happen testing the same skills. So we were having this chat the other day, Amit and I, both of us were agreed, and I'm quite sure if you ask the IIM Indore people who are conducting the CAT, why did you do this? The reason is it's a forced hand. So I don't think a forced hand involves a discussion around, should we change the question type? Should we change what we are testing? So they are pretty much going to test the same thing. So your experience of the CAT is going to remain same. Getting it down to 2 hours was basically a forced hand because of social distancing requirements, and because of, I'm quite sure, sanitation requirements between one slot to the next. You're going to have 100 people sitting in a room. So you want to cut it down to 50 or 60. So obviously, if you want to make 200 people give an exam in a room, so you want them to come in slots of 60, 60, 60 each. And the second is once one group of 60 goes out, you will not need to sanitize. So that's why the time slots were quite, I was quite sure that the first time slot will start a little bit earlier than normal. And that's why the time slots 8:30, 12:30 and 4:30 kind of goes according to what we could predict. So question, easier, tougher. Easier, tougher, same. Three possibilities about questions, right? So easier, I don't think so. There's no reason, because the reason for that is when the number of questions comes down, I'm quite sure the number of questions will come down, but almost 90-95% sure about it. बस CAT में जब तक हुआ नहीं तब तक कुछ नहीं बोल सकते आप. So when you're preparing, you also have to prepare. I told you, take a wide angle view. So there was a time when CAT was 1 minute per question, right? You had 120 minutes, and you had you had 150 questions, or there were times where you had 120 minutes and 100 questions. So it was approximately 1 minute, 1.2 minutes per question. So that is one end to it. That could happen. That's one dimension to what could happen. But the probability of that is happening is very low in my view, because that would mean that they would need to change what they're testing. So if I'm on verbal, if I'm at 34 questions and 60 minutes for the last three CATs, that means I'm at 1.7 minutes per question. if I come down to 40 minutes and 32 questions, and I come down to 32 minutes, 1.2 minutes per question, then that's something that is changing what I'm going to test, and that's something I don't think they would be doing. और एक चीज और है, ये तुम you will see this. This has been a consistent pattern of all exams, not just CAT. Even ZAT has had this, that you want people to solve the same questions. You don't want people to. I mean, when you used to have the 180 mark questions, 180 question papers, 120 minutes, 180 questions. I needed to score 120 marks. I was not forced to solve every question. I could leave 60 questions. So every third question I could just leave. So that was this thing. So when you reduce the number of questions, what happens is you're testing the entire population on the same kind of questions. So that is again another logic due to which I don't think they'll go to a 100 question exam in 120 minute framework. टफर होने का चांसेस थोड़ा सा है. टफर होने का रीजन ये हो सकता है कि when you reduce the length of a match, the favorite team's advantage goes down a little bit. So my objective, if I'm conducting CAT, my objective will be to find the best people. I'm not looking for giving a chance to this thing. So if I make, to give you an analogy, if I'm making people play the Cricket World Cup, I want the best team to win, because that's when the game grows. I don't want a team which is weaker to win. So if in the Cricket World Cup I start having 10 over matches or 5 over matches, then you can have an Afghanistan winning the World Cup over in Australia or in India. So that is something which is going to be a logic that they might consider. So questions getting tougher is a slightly more probable estimate from my side, because if I was in that room talking about CAT and trying to think about what discussions one can have around the CAT, if I'm first forced now it's a 2-hour exam, so I might say okay, let me restore the advantage of the guy who's better prepared and who's smarter, basically. So I might want to do that. So but again, I would put a 5-10% probability on that. And I mean, by default also questions could have got tougher, just as I just heard Tanuj saying 2019 first lot, the verbal was tougher than what it was the previous year. तो उतना वेरिएशन तो टफनेस में होता है, उसके लिए तुम तैयार भी हो गए. But some people asking me, will it become a speed shootout like the CAT of the 90s was? I don't think so. Which means we can almost rule out, but be prepared for it. ऐसा नहीं कि उस दिन आ गया तो क्या करें, right? So but chances are less. So you might not want to put too many eggs into that basket, but do have that basket. What if they give a 100 question exam in 120 minutes? So I always tell my students and everybody who cares to listen to me that your preparation should be such that if the questions are easier, it should benefit you. If the questions remain the same, it should benefit you. If the questions are tougher, it should still benefit you. The preparation should be that way. So I hope you understand that when the questions become easier, improving your when the questions become easier, the competitive advantage is created out of speed. Because when the questions are easier, everybody can solve them, or more people can solve. Not everybody, but more people can solve them. So वहाँ पे competitive advantage speed से build होता है. Whereas where the questions are tougher, competitive advantage comes out of just being able to solve. So if the questions are tougher, I can solve, you can't solve, I have an advantage. If the questions are easier, I can solve and you can solve. So my advantage will only be in terms of speed. I can solve faster, hence I am better than you. So that's the only way I can show that. So that also then tells me that how when they are cutting the time, how much less can they go to in the questions, in the number of questions. So I think my thought process is that they would pretty much retain the same number of time per question, which is around 1.7, 1.8 in the current CAT for the different sections. So I would think that they would retain the same. So my most probabilistic estimate is between 60 to 75. If I had to bet on one number or a smaller range, I would bet between a 66 to 72 number. But I'm not a betting man, So I would be prepared for both 60 and 75. And I would also have a back of my mind preparation for 100, for 100, 120 questions. But I would know that that's not likely to happen. But I would still be making sure that, because anyway, if you're giving other exams like SNAP, NMAT, etc., they are a one minute per question exam. So you have to prepare that. It's not that you're deviating too much. So might as well prepare that before the CAT, right? So that's my point of view, right? So number of questions I've already talked about. So what should be a plan? What should be a 60-day plan for QA? So the first thing is audit. The first thing is audit. I mean, when I want to find out how do I get to, suppose I'm at a location and I want to find out how do I get from here to Bombay. So the first thing I have to find out ki main kahan hu, where am I? So ask yourself these questions that I've put up here in QA, and I'll go through all the 3 sections very briefly. So where are you in portion coverage in QA? Which chapters have you covered once? Which chapters have you not covered? Which chapters have you covered twice, thrice? Make a list. It's always good to write these things, because you get clarity of thought about it. And audit, the other question is, what are your chapter experiences when you take the mock tests? As Tanuj was talking, I'm quite sure that Radhika talked the same thing. Mock tests are the most important part of your CAT prep. What are your experiences in various chapters? How's your profit and loss been going in the exam? How's your time split distance been going in the exam? How's your functions going in the exam? How's your permutation combination going in the exam? And 3 questions comes in the paper from permutation combination. How many can you do? Which question types allow you to do it faster without making mistakes? Which question types slow you down? Just say Tanuj gave a brilliant example of the fact that geometry would slow him down, and he knew that his return on time invested was much lower in geometry than others. So these kind of thoughts, you'll see that all the toppers are very, very clear about this. So if you want to compete with them, you need these points, because then these are the metrics you then start changing. Obviously, chapters are not covered, I need to cover. Chapters I've covered once, I need to cover second time. So what this will do is this will define what you need to do from this. So you'll get a definition of what you need to do. And 60 days, if you can work well and work with clear definitions, is a lot. It's not short for CAT. 60 days is quite a bit if you can work with clear definitions. Unless, of course, कि तुमको 2 + 2 4 भी नहीं आता, or 2x - 3 is equal to y, or 5x + 4 is equal to z is equal to y. ये 2 इक्वेशन को सॉल्व करना नहीं आता, वहां पे अगर तुम हो तब तो मुश्किल है. But otherwise, if you are okay with most of the logic, there is a point of view which also talks about कि CAT का तैयारी, aptitude test का तैयारी क्यों करना चाहिए. You don't need to prepare, right? So once you define what you do, then the most important part, which I find students failing at, and that's unfortunate, because this is the last part of it. Just go ahead and do it now. So I see so many students. I'll tell you at Mindworkzz, I tell my students that you want to talk to me about your prep process. This is my number. Give me a missed call. I'll call you back. That's the open invitation to every student of mine. So I'll tell you, 70% of the students, of course, people who come to me, I'm able to change them. But when I get calls or when I get pings from people outside, especially, 60-70% of the pings I get are about plans. Ki kya karna chahiye. And then I have had so many cases of the same guy coming back to me 3 months later and asking me kya karna chahiye. Then I ask him kya kiya tumne. And as that famous quotation goes in Batman, which I really appreciate, and which should be a way of life for all of us, that the Batman quote was deep inside, you might be the same great kid that you are always been, but in the world, it is not who you are that matters. What matters is what you do. So this bias for action is something that is missing in our entire generation, because I think there's something wrong in our education system that does not teach that. So you need to create that bias for education, for action. When you have, even if you don't have a plan and you jump into the sea and start swimming, you'll reach somewhere. So this is the most important part of any planning, right? Plans, you can make the best laid plans fail in the paucity of execution. So that's your this thing. DILR, the audit will consist of how many sets have you solved, and what is your current skill level in each type. Question type, reasoning may will define it in question type, and DI may will define traditional and logical DI. If you see my data interpretation book, I've split data interpretation into these two parts. And also very importantly, get inputs from your test experiences. Inputs like what kind of questions do you get scared about? What kind of questions do you start getting nervous about? Ki nahi hoga mere se? What kind of clues you find difficult to handle in reasoning? What kind of data situations you find difficult to handle? What kind of data situations you're able to push to the 7th year and go faster? What allows you? So this will, all these inputs, once you collect them, then you create a plan, the same logic, identify what you need to do. So obviously, if suppose I'm comfortable at a question type, I'll give you the kind of sample work plans you can create. Suppose there's a question type in reasoning in which I'm comfortable, but I have not created that burst of speed in it. So my practice should now become to create that burst of speed. I'm comfortable at doing it. If I solve 10 sets on that, I'm able to do all those 10 sets. But I don't have that burst of speed, because inside the exam, and I'm quite sure Tanuj and Radhika, maybe they did not realize it so clearly, but I'm quite sure they must have done this. And anybody who does well at the exam, your solving is not at one speed. You speed up and then you slow down, and you speed up and you slow down. Your first question, one question might be at a very quick speed, and the next one might be very slow. So you keep varying your speed. It's like driving a car. You can't drive at a constant speed. So when you get the expressway in the questions, you get a DI set which is down your lane. You get a DI set or an LR set which you are very comfortable with. Do you have the 7th gear to finish it in 5 minutes, or do you take the 10 minutes there also? आता है मेरे को, लेकिन 10 मिनट लगता है. So that means your practice went wrong. You should have been able to maximize that advantage. नहीं तो अगर मैं if I'm going from city A to city B और expressway पे 60 km/h पे गाड़ी चला दी, तो मेरे को जल्दी पहुंचना है, तो बाद में जब मेरे को dense roads मिलेंगे, तो वहां पे मैं speed up कर पाऊंगा क्या? Obviously not. I'll not be able to speed up there. So I have to speed up when the expressway comes. So what is the expressway in DI? What is the expressway in LR? Which question types? And have you created the 7th gear in those? So these are things that you identify, and then you go after it. Matlab, going after it means just two things. Matlab, DILR is obviously about problem solving experience. So anytime you pick up 50 new sets on data interpretation and solve them with an objective, either of मेरे से solve नहीं होता है तो मैं solve करना start करता हूँ. That could be one objective. Let me start solving this. Let me start understanding how to solve it. And the second objective could be कि solve होने लगा है तो मैं speed burst create करूँ उसमें. Right? You can't win 100-meter races without the speed burst. So that's this thing. Verbal, the same thing. Verbal, of course, the question types are much less. Even with if you add 3 question types to your verbal, you still have only 6-7 question types to work on. So you need to analyze what your current accuracy level is, and again, what are you able to speed up on. You get an RC on a topic which you like. Do you have the 5-minute burst there? Isko 5 minute khatam, because you're going to be thrown. No matter how well you prepare, you're going to be thrown into situations in the exam where suddenly you need to say, okay, boss, agla 5 minute mein 4 attempt chahiye mere ko. Kar paoge? So you'll be able to execute the strategy. Nahi kar paoge, so you are amongst the laggards. Those people who do well in the exam. That's what it is all about. Right? So again, verbal mein, based on your test experiences, based on your exam experiences, the kind of questions you are not able to solve, the kind of questions your accuracy level goes down, etc. Identify what you need to do, and then go ahead and create study plans and do it. Of course, verbal mein agar तुम्हारा English अभी भी खराब है और language understanding poor है, तो शायद CAT 20 the verbal section is bolted from you. You can try to prepare कि 30-35 marks ले आए ताकि sectional qualify निकल जाए, but you can't look at maxing the exam. But if your language is good, your understanding is, if you worked on your understanding and made it good, so you can still look at topping the verbal section also, right? So have very clear objectives also in that context. Verbal mein, what am I trying to achieve? Am I trying to achieve a 99.9 percentile? Am I trying to achieve a 98, 99, or am I trying to achieve 90? So your plans will also be based on where you want to go, right? It can't just be you may improve karna for the sake of improving. So that's my advice. So just a brief word about the products for CAT Prep at Mindworkzz. We have got the CAT 20 crash course. We have an Arun Sharma CAT challenge, which is 25 curated tests based on the latest pattern that I make. And we also have a CAT 21 comprehensive course with us. So you can obviously go to mindworkzz.in and find these courses, etc. So I'm done. Amit, thank you so much for this opportunity.